Okay, so I made a schematic, and then I went to File and I said switch to board, and it created a board, and I had to drag the components where I wanted them, and I did auto route and then touched up some of the traces myself. So now that I have a nice layout here, I could go ahead and send the Gerbers to a manufacturer and they could make my board for me. Or I can try making it myself. So how I would do that is first I would disable everything but the pads and the bottom trace. So you go to View, Layer Settings, and click the highlighted area of all of the things you do not want. So everything but the bottom and the pads. So hit apply, okay. So now I just have the pads, which are the green, and the blue, which are the traces. So that's all that's going to be left on my copper sheet. Now, at this point, I want to export, and I want to export as an image. So I'd recommend putting this kind of high. 250 seems okay. That's so you actually have a decent resolution of the traces and pads. If it's at 150, some of the traces and pads will collide, and that will be an issue. I also suggest doing monochrome. So once you've done that, you pick a place to save this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy over a previous version. Overwrite. Okay, now I'm going to open it up in GIMP. So here it is in GIMP. Now I'm going to switch the color inversion so everything looks nice and good. So now the traces are the black. So that's fine. Now I'm going to fill in the black. Okay. So now I'm going to print this out to ensure that the components will fit in place. Okay, so I printed out my layout here, and I have it on top of a piece of styrofoam so that the components pins can go into it and I can see if they will collide. So I'm going to poke some holes in with a needle just so I don't bend the pins of the components as I insert them. Okay, now I'm going to put the components in place. Okay, everything looks good. Now something I forgot to do, which is very important, is to invert the layout so that it is on the back of the PCB. Like so. Alright, now it's ready to go. So let me cut the layout here. Now we're going to switch back to the real world. So this is the Craft Robo. I'm using a 0.1 millimeter tip, and I'm using a piece of adhesive paper so I can cut out the stencil and then stick it onto the copper and then draw my lines. So let's go ahead and cut. See what we got.
And there are the traces. Now I'm going to attempt to take this stencil I just printed up and place it on here, and hopefully everything will work out fine. It's a little tricky since some of this is narrow, but if I can do this just right, everything should be good. Okay, so now that's on there, I can take my Sharpie and draw out the traces using this stencil. Okay, looks good. Now let that dry for a bit, and then I'll peel off the label. Okay, so here's the board that I just marked up with a Sharpie and cut out. And here's the etch solution. It says I'm meant to use it for 20 minutes, and I should agitate the water while I do that. So, I forgot how nasty this stuff is. I have to wash my hands after this, so that looks about right. And I'm going to leave that there for 20 minutes.
What a brilliant name.
It is a great name.
Trademark, I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you that one? Is that,
Well, I don't know. I just blamed it as a trademark, but I did a search to make sure nobody was using Great Scott for anything.
Awesome!
Or at least Great Scott gadgets.